So yesterday was the first episode of Ring of Honor. I would say overall it was a very enjoyable show. Ran a little over 2 hours. I would like to see them kind of keep it a little under, just because at this point Tony Khan has wrestling on Monday through Friday. Um, but at the end of the day,
Wild.
number one, just to kind of make sure people that don't know understand what this new Ring of Honor is. It's definitely not another episode of Elevation or Dark. These matches are 15 minutes in length each for the most part. Like, the wrestlers are being given plenty of time to work and to get the rep in. Um, and I thought that was great. I was also really pleasantly surprised that they did a really good job of having a good amount of promos. Again, my thought was, is this going to be just Elevation, but with like titles? And it wasn't that. It was definitely not that. So definitely thought it was great. Um, let's run through what happened on the show. First up, we had Slim J versus Mark Briscoe. Mark ends up winning this match. Thought it was a good match.
I love
Uh,
both these guys.
yeah, I thought it was a really good first match for Ring of Honor to have Mark Briscoe in it, so that was great. Next up, we had a Tony Depan promo, which the wording of it was a little interesting, because the way Tony Depan was talking, uh, I don't want to get too much into it, but he says he's facing someone next week, and maybe I wasn't listening fully, but you know, we'll see. I don't want to spoil other things. But I mean, so he reads this promo about this person he's facing next week, and he reads off like a paper, like the way he was reading it was like, I didn't write this, because like it was very bad, but I felt like it was an intentional bad, because after he does it, like Lexi Nair is like trying not to like crack up, if you know what I mean. Like, he's reading off this paper, this promo, and you know how like you can tell when somebody didn't write something and they're reading it for the first time out loud.
Yeah.
That's how it sounded like. And then, like, as he walked away, Lexi was like cracking up. So I felt like it was intentional. It was, because it was also like a crumpled up piece of paper. So yeah, it was funny. Um, Next up, we had the Infantry versus the Kingdom. The Infantry is a team with the captain Sean Dean and Carly Bravo, who has been on Dark and Elevation in past years. They faced the Kingdom. This is another really good match, actually. The Kingdom ended up winning this one. I'm very interested to see the Ring of Honor tag team division take shape and see where we go with it, especially because we're going to need to, crown new tag champions. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have to see what happens with that.
Dude, I gotta say, Maria Kanellis does not get enough credit for how amazing she is for whatever roster she winds up on every time. She's just like an absolute solid presence no matter where she goes.
I agree with that. Yeah, Maria is she's awesome. All right, next up we had my favorite match of the night. Then for the New Japan Pro Wrestling television title, Blake Christian versus Zack Sabre Jr. And my God, this
Woo!
match went about 13 minutes, and it was fucking incredible. They had a nice little pre-match video package. Thought it was great. Halfway through the match, Zack Sabre Jr. calls out Bryan Danielson. During the match, he just turns to the camera. He's like, Brian, I'm the best technical wrestler, not you. Um, Something to keep in mind for maybe a Forbidden Door, something like that. And
What
Zack
we
Sabre
wanted
Jr. ends
last
up,
year.
yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. ends up winning this match, and it was awesome. Yeah, just great. Blake Christian, really underrated in my opinion. I think the guy works really well. What's up, Ed? Um, yeah, I thought this was a great match. Absolutely loved it. I would say that this was my match of the night. There was another match that people really liked, which I also liked, but this was for me my favorite match. Next up, we had a promo between Mark Sterling and Tanosuke Takeshita. This was hilarious. So basically, Takeshita has a match later in the night against Josh Woods. Mark Sterling says that he is petitioning for the match to be canceled, and he has a contract that Takeshita can sign to call off the match. And the reason that Mark says that this match should be called off is, number one, it's a conflict of interest between Mark Sterling and Takeshita. And number two, he just doesn't like Takeshita. Um, so Mark proposes that they cancel the match and they split the winner's purse. At first they say 50-50, but then Mark says, well, with my legal fees, it's going to be more like 55-45. But you'll still get 45% of the winner's purse. What do you say? He hands him the contract. Takeshita rips up the contract.
I would have ripped it up too.
Yeah. Next up, we got a video package from Christopher Daniels. He says it may be a new era of RoH, but he is still in the thick of it, and there's more that he wants to do in Ring of Honor. Which led to his match against Rohit Raju. This was a fine match. It was more of a getting Christopher Daniels on the card kind of match. It wasn't a squash, but it was definitely a showcase of Daniels, which he ends up winning. And yeah. Next up, we got a promo with Rhett Titus and my notes messed up. There we go. Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams. They are former Ring of Honor tag champions, both Ring of Honor OG guys. They basically talk about how they want the tag titles again and they want to get back into it. Aussie Open shows up because Aussie Open is everywhere these last 2 weeks, literally. Aussie Open wants to face them next week on Ring of Honor television, which they accept. So next week we have Aussie Open versus Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams. Next up, we got the Konosuke Takeshita versus Josh Woods match. A lot of people love this match on Twitter. I also really enjoyed this match. This was really good. This is a great match. The Takeshita does end up winning. Between this and the Zack Sabre Jr. match, like these two matches, I think are worth the price of admission alone. Especially along with the main event, which was also really good. But yeah, definitely really, really good stuff so far here on Ring of Honor. Next up, we get a Claudio promo, and it felt very vintage for him because he cuts the promo in English about his opponent AR Fox, and then he cuts it in German, which was I really appreciated that. That was kind of a throwback to his older days of when he knew 5 different languages and he would cut promos in all 5 of them. That was great. Next up, we had the Embassy in a 6-man tag, trios match, if you would, versus Joey Keys, ISG, and a third guy whose name I didn't get because the Embassy fucking demolished these guys. The irony is not lost on me that week in and week out, Jeffrey Vegas, Jeffery, I'm sick of this Brian Cage thing. They never give him his due. He's a champion. He should be treated like a champion. And then finally, Ring of Honor happens, the place where you should be looking for him to be like that. You didn't watch. I was like, well,
Hey, listen, my petition.com to Tony Khan to please stop pinning Brian Cage worked. That's all I could say.
All I'm gonna say is the Embassy forever. Prince Nana, man, great guy.
Dude, I do love that guy.
I love Prince Nana so much. Next up, we had Metalik versus Ari Daivari. We had a nice little video package here about Metalik and all the matches he was winning on AEW TV, and now he's seeking gold in Ring of Honor. So if something interesting happened, then I don't know if it was done by accident or this is legit, just like this was written in this way. But so we don't see Metalik's entrance into the ring, and it's one of the few tonight that we did not, or during the show that we did not see. Now Ari Daivari comes out. And on commentary, Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni are talking. They say that Ari Daivari paid for Metalik to not have an entrance tonight, which I thought was just really funny. And I don't know if it was like, I don't know if they like just didn't catch there was like a video bug and they needed to like do a storyline reason why, or I don't know, but it was really funny. So Ari Daivari ends up winning this match from after interference from Mark Sterling. Mark Sterling, by the way, all over tonight's episode of Ring of Honor or last night's episode of Ring of Honor. Like this guy was everywhere. I think we saw him like 6 times, which is great for him. Next up, we had a AR Fox promo. Thought this was a really good promo for him. He talks about how years ago he had tried out for Ring of Honor and he never heard back from them. Maybe he wasn't good enough then, but he says he busted his ass to get to where he is now, and now here he is on the first episode of the new era of Ring of Honor. He's main eventing for the World Championship. Producer Jeff just showing his figures that are irrelevant to my Ring of Honor review. My goodness.
My autographed Lucha Bros.
Yeah. All right, next up we had the Renegades versus Sky Blue and Madison Rain. Thought this was good. Once again, the Renegades did not have matching hair. I'm going to say it every time. It makes no sense. Please fix it or get different. I don't know. Stop doing the twin gimmick. Doesn't work. But good match all the same. Funny story of what happened next. So we got a quick little video package about Peacock Power and Dalton Castle and how he will be on Ring of Honor television next week. I was watching the show and I had Tiger in my lap, right? And I'm just watching Ring of Honor, and he's sleeping in my lap. And they had a peacock sound playing during Dalton's thing, and Tiger freaked out. And I'm like, Tiger, it's just the television. It's just Dalton Castle. He freaks out. He runs out of the room. I'm like, I guess cats don't like peacocks, which makes a lot of sense. But it was funny. Next up, we had a Wheeler Yuda in-ring interview. Wheeler Yuda comes out and talks with Ian Riccaboni. Ian refers to him as the junior member of the Blackpool Combat Club. Wheeler Yuda gets mad at him, saying that he's not a junior member. He is not a rookie. He surrounded himself with 3 of the best wrestlers, and that's what made him what he is today. Yuda wants to defend his title next week and issues an open challenge to anyone in the back to come out and accept the challenge next week for a Ring of Honor Pure Championship match. And out comes Timothy Thatcher. He comes out and he accepts the challenge for next week. He says, I don't like talking, but I do like fighting. I'll see you next week.
Yes, please.
We also get a little video package that Samoa Joe will be in action next week. I actually really like this. I think it's really smart of them to just kind of showcase, like, hey, Dalton Castle will be in action next week. Joe will be in action next week. Make sure you tune in next week.
Yeah.
It's really smart from them. Next up, by the way, this is the 18th segment of the show. This is, again, a lot of stuff going on. Next up was Lady Frost versus Willow Nightingale. This is another great match. It was really nice to see Lady Frost get out of the, let's say, the Impact warehouse, shall we say.
Yeah.
And she ends up having a great match with Willow. Willow does end up picking up the win here. So there is a post-match interview where Willow talks about that she's been, she's like, I've been picking up wins in Ring of Honor at both the pay-per-views. I won matches. I think it's time I get a little bit of gold here and challenge Athena. I thought that this was actually a really good promo from Willow. It's the first time I feel like Willow's had like an extended promo, at least that I can remember. I mean, maybe someone can correct me, but I thought it was really good. I was actually pretty down for it. I was like, this is really great. This really fits Willow too, very well.
Yeah, and if you don't follow Lady Frost on Twitter, she's an awesome follow as well. I'm pretty sure she follows us and she likes our stuff all the time. So yeah, she's really cool.
Yeah, Lady Frost is great. I'm really happy for her. I hope to see more of her in Ring of Honor, maybe in AEW. She's very talented. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So Willow challenges, and by the way, Jeff, if I'm going too fast, please stop me.
You're good.
So Willow challenges Athena. Athena comes out, and at first Athena's just like, no. But then Athena kind of goes on to elaborate. She's like, she's like, Willow, you're just so happy to be here. And the thing is like, you can't just be happy to be here if you want to win this. And she's got the world title around her belt, around her waist. Athena actually ends up accepting her challenge for next week. So she kind of flipped pretty quickly there. She was like, no. And she's like, you know what? Fine, I will. Just to embarrass. But no, all around this was a great match with a great segment. Tony Khan, he's still booking them women. Doesn't matter if it's AEW or Ring of Honor. And then last but not least, we had our main event for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Claudio Castagnoli versus AR Fox. This was a really good match. Claudio ends up winning. Really enjoyed it. At the end of the match, Eddie Kingston comes out. He comes out, he says, I'm an independent contractor, 1099 on my tax forms. And he's like, I promised Mox I wouldn't beat your ass in AEW, but this isn't AEW. He says he's coming for the Ring of Honor title, and he wants Claudio to acknowledge him. Claudio leaves the ring without saying a word to him.
Yeah, and I honestly had no clue that that happened. And I remember in Discord, I was like, would it be too soon for Eddie Kingston to show up and tell Claudio he's gonna beat his ass? So that was actually pretty funny. I'm glad that happened. I was very happy for Eddie Kingston. And I'm telling you, he needs to win that belt. I want to see Eddie strapped up for sure.
I also just think it's funny that some dumb Mark reporter at the media scrum was just like, "So, Tony Khan, do you have anything to say about Eddie Kingston quitting AEW?" And it's like it's clearly a work because like they shot a promo, they aired it after the show, like it's so
Yeah,
and he shows up in Ring of Honor. It's clearly a work, and yet like so all Tony can say is Tony's like pay
it's in
attention,
storyline.
pay attention. No, he doesn't want to say that. So he says pay attention to the wrestling industry, and you'll see what happens next. Which is his way
Yeah,
of saying like fucking watch the product, you dork.
yeah.
um,
Watch the
yeah,
product, you dork.
so this was a great episode of Ring of Honor. Very happy with the 9.99 I spent for Honor Club.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited to see what the product looks like moving forward. Very optimistic, very positive after the first show. I felt like it kind of had a little bit of something for everybody here, so
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
not only do you get the episode a week of Honor of Ring of Honor, you get the whole Honor Club, you get the whole library, like everything's there. It's you're not just buying the episode. It's definitely worth it. I just had a problem with my email. It wouldn't let me sign up. It wanted a credit card instead of like my PayPal, and I do everything through PayPal, so
Yeah,
I
so
gotta go find my card.
Unfortunately Honor Club didn't let me use PayPal, so I did have to end up putting my card in.
Yeah.
Um, which generally I don't, but this time I was like, whatever, man. Like,
I just don't even know where mine's at. So usually I like usually on my phone everything lets me link PayPal, but since that didn't, I was like, oh, all right, we'll
yeah,
get it
I'm
next week.
definitely. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said we'll get it next week. I still plan on getting it. I couldn't.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of spending a little bit of time with the Honor Club and just generally the app and everything. I definitely have some criticisms of the app itself. I would like for them to kind of get on board with maybe getting some, smart TV apps, some console apps, something where I don't have to like put my laptop in, unplug my HDMI from my cable
Yeah.
box, plug it into my laptop. Again, we talked about it last week. I mean, Jeff, you've seen my setup. My setup is not very set up to have my laptop sitting there. So I had
Yeah.
to sit, like the chair that I'm sitting on now, I had to take it to the other room, unplug my HDMI from my cable box because I have so many HDMI cords from all my consoles, and it's just a headache. So I would like
Yeah.
to see them kind of move away from that and get like some more focused apps. Like you said, the PayPal thing was also kind of a disappointment. I would like to see that get fixed as well. Maybe add PayPal amongst other options. Um, generally, yeah. So Ed says there's no TV app. Yeah, there's no TV app for it. So there's a phone app. I think there's something for Apple TV, but I don't have Apple TV, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to be using Apple TV. But
They'll get it. They just put it back up on Honor Club.
yeah. But so all
But
around, thought this was a great show. The memes have been delightful about Tony Khan, where it's like Observer Awards 2023, Booker of the Year, first place, Tony Khan, AEW, second place, Tony Khan, Ring of
yeah.
Honor. Um, someone
You know,
also said, sorry, real quick. Somebody also said that Tony Khan booked Riho versus Emi Sakura tonight because AEW Tony Khan wasn't going to be upstaged by Ring of Honor Tony Khan. Oh man.
you know, I don't think enough is said about how that man runs a now very successful NFL team,
Hmm.
a pretty successful Premier League soccer team, and please forgive me if they're not in the Premier League. I think they are, but I'm not sure. Um, Dark on Mondays, Elevation on Tuesdays, Dynamite on Wednesdays, Ring of Honor on Thursdays, Rampage on Fridays. Dude, this guy is putting out great content while still being this busy. Could you imagine anybody over in the Fed trying to book their shows while also running an NFL team, while also running a professional soccer team? Like, This guy is incredible, to be honest with you.
No, he really is, and he loves doing it, and it just feels so genuine when he does it. Like, he just loves doing this stuff. He loves pro wrestling that much, where he puts it out 5 nights a week. And like, you know, as a fan, as a customer, like, yeah, it does get a little tiring. But at the same time, like, this dude just loves it. He's gonna keep putting this content out, and I love him for it.
It's great, man. It's great.